Hi everyone, as you can see this video is about making a maze. We're going to talk about making a maze, and then we're going to talk about moving a sprite around in the maze, and finally creating a finish for your project. Now normally the first thing we would want to do was find a background that we can use. So we click on background, but we're not going to pick one of the backgrounds here. So I'm going to go over and cancel that, and instead we're going to draw our own background. We'll start by clicking on the rectangle and drawing a rectangle that takes up the full screen. It goes all the way across to the bottom, and then picking a color, preferably a dark color, and then clicking on the bucket option in a second and filling it in so it's all one color. Now that's our background for the maze. What we're going to do now is draw a line and make it a different color so we can distinguish between the walls and the Carter. So you find the big size and you draw. But if you notice, when you draw, the lines don't always come out straight, and that could be a mess when you're trying to get your guy to go through the maze. So I'm canceling that. I'm trying it again, but it's still not working the way I want. So I'm going to go up, I'm going to press undo again and show you a trick. If you hold the shift key down while you're drawing a line, it will draw it straight, either straight across or straight down. If you click it when you let go by mistake, though, you've got to do it over again. So I'm drawing lines now, and notice now they're all straight. They're all going either straight up or straight down. The first thing you want to do is draw the actual path that your character is going to travel to get through the maze, so you know where he's going to go, because that's important. So as I'm drawing the maze, I'm finishing it right there, from him going side to side, and now I'm drawing some dead ends. Because a maze is no fun unless you can get trapped in a dead end somewhere. So I'm drawing lines to indicate where the character would go, but not where he would go to successfully finish the maze. So he would probably get trapped somewhere in the middle. So I'm just about finished doing that now. And I make sure that there's no connections so that they can actually get back on the right path, and that's done. Now, if you notice, my character is way too big to go through the maze. So I'm going to click on my sprite. I'm going to click on costumes, and I'm going to shrink him so that he's small enough to fit inside the maze. Don't worry if he's really small, because if you play this at full screen, it won't matter that much. That's a pretty good size, but I might even want to make him just a little bit smaller so he won't run into the walls all the time. That's a pretty good size. I'm going to stick with that. Now I make sure I center him, otherwise he's not going to go the way I want him to. I'm going to now move my cat over to the starting point. And then I'm going to write the script for his movement. Now this script is the same as the scripts you've written before. You're going to start off with a when flag is clicked, and then you're going to go back to motion, and you're going to set his rotation style left to right because you don't want him moving around too much. And then at the beginning of the game, you want to have him at a certain point. So you're going to choose go to XY right there. And you move your mouse over so you can see where XY is. When you put it on the cat and look at the bottom left side of the maze, you see two numbers that say X and Y. Those are the coordinates that you're going to put in those boxes, so that when the game starts, he's at the beginning of the maze. Now this part you're going to be familiar with from the work you've done before. You're going to go back over into the control section and choose a forever loop. And then inside that forever loop, you're going to put a whole bunch of if-then statements. Just like we did in our first exercise, we're going to create 4 if-then statements that will control the movement of your sprite. There's the third one, and there's the fourth one. And if you remember now, what we will do is go to sensing and tell it if what. In this case, if key something is pressed. So we have 4 of these, up, down, left, and right. So I'm going to put them in, and then I'm going to set them up the way I want them. I'm choosing the right direction for each key. Now after this, I go back to the motion blocks and I choose the point command. So the sprite knows which way it's going to go. And I'm going to put a point in direction in each of those if-then loops. Sometimes it's easier to do it this way than doing it one at a time. But once I have all my directions in, I'm going to move to the next step. So I have 2 more. And there we go. Now just pointing it obviously is not enough. So now under each point I'm going to make it move. And in this case I'm having it move 10 steps. You choose what you want. If 10 steps is too fast, lower the number. If 10 steps is too slow, make it faster. I'm going to run this now to see if it works. So there's my character, and he's able to move in all the directions. But as you can see, he's not following the maze, and nothing is happening to him when he's not following the maze. So that is something we will have to correct. And we're going to do that by putting in another if-then loop. And remember, these go down one after the other. And now it's if touching the color. Now watch, I click on the square, and then I click on the color that I want it to interact with, and it picks it up automatically. So if it's touching the color of the background, I want it to go back to the start. So I'm going to tell it to glide, and I'm going to use the same numbers I used at the top and say glide back to the original coordinates. That means every time your sprite bounces up against a wall, he or she is going to have to move back to the beginning and start over. So I'm going to run this now and see what happens. So my character is moving, and he hits a wall, and there he goes, right back to the start again. Anytime he hits anything that's the color of the background, he's going to head back to the start and start again. So you have to be very careful. Now he's come to a dead end here, so I'll just have him go back up again. So far, so good. But the next thing, I guess, is how do we know when a character has reached the end? We have to put something there so that he knows he's finished. So in this case, I'm going to look for a finishing line flag. So if I scroll down far enough, I will see a flag. There's one right there. I will pick my flag, put it at the end where I want it to be. Again, it's too big. So let's go to costumes and make it smaller so it fits. And then drag it into the place I want. Now this sprite never has to move, so we don't have to write any move commands for it. In fact, we don't have to write any commands for it at all. It's just a marker. We do, however, have to tell our cat to do something. So back to one more if-then loop. And again, make sure they are lined up straight against each other, because if one is lined up inside of another one, it will not work. So, if then, and then back to sensing, and if the cat is touching the flag, we have to have something to let it know that it's finished, or let you know that it's finished. So I'm going to play a meow sound. So if cat is touching the flag, then play meow. Now if you do this, you're going to notice that there's something a little bit off about this. So if you want to play the meow, you're going to have to find a way to fix it. Now my cat moves back to the beginning, and I'll make him play the meow again, and the game is over. he has reached his goal, so he's back at the beginning ready for the next game. Thanks for listening.